and welcome to Take Time. I am your host, Patrick Marlette, and today I'm going to tell you to avoid yet another Seiko item. Now, last time I told you to avoid buying the Seiko SARB017 Alpinist, and with good reason, and today I'm going to tell you to avoid buying its bracelet. Now, ever since I released my review of the SARB017 Alpinist, which is this green Alpinist here, I've been asked about the bracelet that you can acquire for this watch. That bracelet being the M0TZ111J0. Ooh, so close. It is M0TZ111J0. Yep, that is the serial number for the bracelet that's on this watch. And if you've seen the white dial or black dial Alpinist from the same generation, it is that exact same bracelet. The only thing is this model never came stock with the bracelet, so you had to buy it separately. There are so many options in regards to accessories for this particular watch, as it's so well loved and received that you can literally go with any range of options. And now there are a slew of bracelets for this watch, namely from Strap Code, but there are other third-party companies that produce fairly decent metal bracelets for this watch, fitted ones just like this. But folks have been asking me constantly whether or not the manufacturer's bracelet is worth it for this watch, and the answer is partly yes, partly no. It depends on what side of the fence you sit on, and we'll talk about that in our review today. But as with all of my reviews here on the channel, I like to start with the bad and then move on to the good before giving my final verdict of a review item. So why don't we jump into our first bad note. These links are loosely assembled and lightweight. I don't know if you can tell, but there are little gaps between the outer ends of these links and the center link as they join each other on the bracelet, and it's not very reassuring that this thing is going to last a while. I've never had a bracelet come this loose. And, is it going to hold up? Only time will tell. But I got to tell you, right off the bat, these links being extremely loose is not very reassuring. Also, as I mentioned, the links are extremely lightweight. It doesn't make you feel like you purchased something substantial, as the bracelet itself is right around $160. That's right. One of these bracelets, brand new, is $160, roughly. I purchased mine from Seiya, Japan. The customer service was excellent, but again, when this watch head, when I purchased it at least, weighs in at about $350, you really want to make sure you're getting your money's worth if you're spending an extra $160 for a bracelet that's made for it. And I don't really feel like with the overall construction, you got your money's worth, or I did in this instance. And while we're looking at the bracelet, you might have noticed already, but the clasp does not rest flush against the links. And this end right here has caught on to a lot of things. For instance, my garments, bags, or nearby objects. It's a little annoying. I like how these modern Seiko bracelets, most of them fit flush with how the clasp rests on the bracelet links. It would have been nice to have had a modernized clasp here, as this was a recent production model. I mean, it had been running for a long time. It would have been cool if the aftermarket bracelet featured a better clasp, but it doesn't. The other bad note about this clasp is that there are only two micro adjustments, as you can see, and they're really close to each other. I mean, outrageously close to each other. You're really not getting that much of a difference between this slot and that slot. Again, my belief is that you need at least 3 micro adjustment levels on every clasp, unless you have some nice system of adjusting the total length of your bracelet. This is not enough. And much like the loosely fitted links, you have extremely loose fitting end links. If you can see here, these just wobble about in place. You'd imagine that these would be machined a little bit better so that they rested more comfortably against the sides of those lugs and the case, but they do wobble about in position. And, it's not a huge deal, but later on down the road, that is going to leave wear and tear on the lugs and the body. Now, if you intend to leave this watch on the bracelet for life, it's not a big deal, but it's a little bit of a nuisance knowing that these don't fit properly onto the watch head. Now, the last of my bad notes is with the link system itself. These are held together by push pins. You'd really think at $160 you'd get a little bit better system than the traditional push pin, but such is not the case here. So again, we have very loose links, gaps between each link. I mean each link. I don't think that's a tolerance issue. I think that's a manufacturing issue just by and large. It would have been okay if a few of the links were a little loose and I could just replace those with the spare links I have, but they all fit loosely against the watch. These links don't feel substantial. I'm imagining that these links are hollow in the center or just not made out of enough steel because they don't feel that great in hand. You don't feel like you're really getting your money's worth here. The only benefit is that you're buying a bracelet that was designed for this watch head. So why don't we jump into our good notes on that note? Now, I'm not really the type of person that cares, but I know a lot of you prefer solid end links. Well, you do have them here. Even if they are a bit loose on the watch head, they are in fact solid end links. So, they are going to hold up better than hollow end links. My main reason for going with hollow end links for the most part is that you can just flex them or bend them back into shape. It's not a huge deal. With these solid end links, you don't have to worry about that. So they're a little bit future-proof in that instance. Now, although the construction left a lot to be desired, I think the finishing on these links and clasps still work really well in combination with the SARB017. You have very nice microfine brushstrokes on top of these links that perfectly match the lugs and the direction the brushing is heading on those lugs. And when you turn the watch over to look at its profile, you'll notice that the high polished sides of the watch case are matched on the links and clasp. Also, in my humble opinion, this is the best way to configure a bracelet, and I'm referring to how this last link meets the end link there. So this is what I would call a reverse Oyster bracelet, and oftentimes you'll find that the end links as they go into the solid end link are reduced. They're either maybe half of a link or 3/4 of a link. Well, they manage to retain the identity of this link at the end here and how it matches with every other link. I like how seamless this transition is into the solid end link, as opposed to some other bracelets we featured on the show, where this solid end link is smaller to fit inside of that end link comfortably. I also think this is a much better design than your typical Oyster bracelet, where you have a faux center link jutting out of the solid end link here, extending the lines of the case. I think this one just flows better with the look of the watch and maintains the lug-to-lug end at its current height. Now, of course, that's just a matter of preference, but I do think how this solid end link system works is the best way to construct a bracelet. I think it just looks better on a watch as opposed to a lot of the competition for the SARB017. Most of those end links have what I was referring to, those bits that would jut out of the case, extending the lines of the case. I think this ultimately looks better than those options. Now, ultimately, you are paying a whole lot for a subpar bracelet. Really, I've owned a lot of bracelets, and this doesn't really match the level of quality I'd come to expect from a $160 bracelet. Now, Seiya Japan is one of the only places I know that markets these brand new. I don't know how they get their inventory, but I did receive one in a Seiko parts bag with the serial number I mentioned earlier. It was indeed brand new, and it works somewhat perfectly with this watch despite being a little loose in places. Now, with all of the competition in this market, I cannot recommend you buy this. Don't buy this bracelet unless you're a sucker like me and you have to own the first party product. Now, this is that fence I was referring to in the beginning. You're either someone who has to own the first party product from your brand, or you don't mind going with a third-party product, such as Strapcode or any other third-party manufacturer producing these for sale for this watch head on Amazon or eBay. I mean, Strapcode produces bracelets that are exquisite and match with this watch perfectly for under $100, depending on the clasp you purchase. I cannot recommend this bracelet strictly on cost alone. It's just not worth the price. Again, unless you are like me and you have to own the first party product. Now, why I prefer to go with this design as opposed to something from Strapcode is because this bracelet was designed to match aesthetically with this watch head. It was conceptualized from the ground up to go with the Seiko Alpinist. So in my mind, this is the appropriate look on a bracelet for this watch, or at least how Seiko had intended this watch to look like on a bracelet. I'm just that nutty when it comes to accessories on my watches. If there is a first party bracelet for an item I just purchased, I'm likely gonna get that bracelet as opposed to any other options. Now that's just how my mind works. If you could care less about all of that and you wanted a Jubilee on this, or you wanted a different type of Oyster bracelet or any variety of other bracelet for this, I would just recommend going with Strapcode. I've used their bracelets in the past. They're constructed extremely well. They will also likely pair well with this watch, just not the way Seiko had intended. Now, before I leave you all, I'm going to provide you with a wrist shot so you can see the way this watch was intended to look like on a bracelet. Now, here's the M0TZ111J0 on a 7¼ inch wrist. That's what it'll look like for all of your admirers, and when you're going to admire it yourself, it's going to look a little something like this. Again, if you found this video enlightening or in the least entertaining, feel free to hit that like button. It looks a little something like this. If you have friends, forums, or groups that are interested in picking up this bracelet, maybe share this video with them first. Again, I will definitely steer anyone who's looking for a bracelet for this watch a different direction. You know, these are really hard to come by and they're really expensive, and honestly just not worth it if you could care less about going with the first party product. So feel free to share this video with them in case they were wondering whether they should buy this or not. For me, the answer is still no. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. I do videos like this twice a week, so if you enjoy watch-related content, if you want the honest truth about products that you can pick up on the market from another consumer like myself, well, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you want to see my videos precisely when they come out, you can hit the bell icon next to that, and you'll be alerted as to when they air. Again, my name is Patrick Marlette, and thank you for the time.